The Gi spot. I'd hit that.
Welcome to the Gi Spot podcast. My name's Rachel Bradshaw and I'm a black belt in Jiu Jitsu.
Hello, I'm Kaz Page and I'm a purple belt in Jiu Jitsu.
Hello. Do-do-do. How are you?
I'm good. Guess what today is?
Today's video day.
Do-do-do.
Hi.
Hi. Yay. We're up and we're running and we're online.
We are.
Do-do-do. Okay, so before we get started, I need to have a rant.
Okay. You're not going to ask me how my week was?
Oh, I'm sorry. How was your week?
It was really good.
I forgot.
You were just ready.
I know. I wanted to rant. Okay, how was your week?
Oh, it was good.
What did you do?
I don't know now. You put me on the spot. I can't remember.
Well, hang on.
Oh, I started training again because I was away on holidays.
Yes.
And then I came back a little bit crook. My voice is a little bit still scratchy this week, so I apologise in advance.
Yep.
And I was rolling Monday night and yesterday I skipped a little bit and today I rolled this morning. It was
I know. I recorded you today. And why did I record you today?
because I was going to say, how was your week? But
No, you can tell.
You came back on the mats this morning.
Yay! In T-shirts and trackie because I don't quite get into my rash guard yet because that's just a little bit too manoeuvristic for my shoulders and such.
Yes.
But I was there.
You were.
And I was going to be the body bag for drilling and
Well,
we just decided no.
I did get you up to do
Yes.
the self-defense.
That's
with
true,
me,
yes.
So that was really good, and you were able to stand there and participate with me
Yep.
in teaching the class. That was really cool. And then you decided to self-volunteer for the groundwork stuff.
Yeah.
And I almost gave in.
I know. And then you went, no, this isn't a good idea.
No, you hop out, I'll get someone in. And then when you saw what they had to do, you were like,
you're good call. Yep. And I came up and said, thanks, Mum.
So I'm looking after you.
Yeah, that was not a good thing.
But how was it being on the mats in the class environment?
It was, I mean, look, we say it all the time, be a part of the community, right? So seeing there was a large number of people there today that I know.
Yes.
From the gym, from being with you guys for the year. So it was lovely seeing them. It was amazing seeing them. It was great being able to go over and I'll retract that. The thought of being able to go over and help somebody was really exciting right up until I went over and went to help them and I just had a complete fucking mental blank. And then I'm like, oh my God, I've forgotten everything about Jiu Jitsu. That was a bit sad because then I went and sat down and pouted for a minute or two and Rach is not fair. But it'll come back, I think. And
oh, you don't have to think about it. It definitely will come back.
It will come back. And it was amazing because, and again, we say it all the time, listening and seeing is still a part of the learning process. My learning is very tactile. My learning is very touch, feel, do, etc. Yeah. But that's not to say that there is not a percentage of listening and seeing that isn't going to absorb in as well. So when you were doing the knee cut and you're doing the 1-2-0, there was so much of that I knew, but it was so lovely to see it broken down again and it will re-edify in my brain. And so it's actually going to be an interesting process over the next sort of 3 or 4 months while I still can't do anything to see how much I absorb in new stuff that I'm seeing or stuff that I haven't thought or seen about for such a long period of time.
Yeah.
And then when I get back to actually start doing, how quickly those things will fire up as well in my brain.
I think you'll find it will be really quick. And if you had stayed away the whole time, it would have been slower. Mm-hmm. But the fact that you'll be on the mats learning and visualizing and seeing it and even being able to increase, like today was your first day.
Yep.
But over the next few months, your little bit of hands-on stuff will start to increase just a tiny bit, even if it's just helping other people.
Yep.
So it's all going to be in there. It's like when parents put their kids on the mats to train first for like a year and then they finally step on.
Oh, yeah.
They know mount, side control, guard.
I watched that with
Jess.
Things. Like Jess was, Jess at Jits, right? So she had been watching her kids and then her husband do this for so long and then she joined in as well. But she already knew so much of the language and she could articulate that verbally.
Yeah.
And then she was able to probably quicker than other women who didn't have the kids in there be able to bring that into life physically as well. So I think you're right. I think me being there now twice a week in those classes is going to help me mentally with the game. It's also going to help me physically because I'm up, I'm doing something, I'm walking around. And that's what I was saying to a couple of the boys that were sitting down asking me questions today, you know, how am I going and all the rest of it. You can so easily get couch potatoed through something like this, sitting, because you do need to sit. Like, I'm going to get to 3:00 this afternoon and have to go and lie down and rest and everything. But excuse me, it's easy to get into a habit of just being there that whole time doing that. So,
yeah.
But no, other than that, my week's been amazing. We've done heaps of stuff. So it's been good. It's been a good week.
Yay. But you wanted to rant.
I do want to have a rant. Listen, we say it all the time. You do you, boo, right? Like, we're not, if that's the way you want to run things, that's the way you want to run things. And that's not a problem. But I really, really, really strongly want to put this out there because, again, thank you to everybody. You're amazing. We're getting so much feedback from people, and I'm having chats to different people, and it's exciting because I'm having chats to different people all over the world that are listening to our podcast, which is phenomenal. But I'm having a chat to some people the other day, and in their particular gym, there is this segregation of male and female. So when classes are on, it's kind of like females are put down one end and males are put at the other end, and that's how the classes are then delivered. That makes no sense to me. And again, you know, you do you, boo, fine. But no, don't do that. I don't understand that. I don't get that. Like, I get the need for women's classes. Don't get me wrong. I'm all in for that. I'm doing it with you. Yep. I love it. I love the fact that you offer a women's class, because if there are women out there that are traumatized, that have been sexually assaulted, that have triggers, etc., this is a really safe space for them to come into. Yep. And some women may never want to transition into a unisex class, or for that, no problem whatsoever. But in the last year that I've been doing the women's class with you, I have watched so many of those women who probably would never have stepped foot on a jiu-jitsu mat had it not been for the women's class, then transition into the unisex class and fucking nail it. Yeah. Absolutely. And love it. Yeah. And do probably more of them every week. You know, so why in hell would a gym keep women and men segregated all the time? Explain that to me.
It's the first time I've heard of men and women being segregated from each other, but I have heard where gyms will also put their students into weight categories and make them stick with their own weight categories.
Oh, wow. Because, you know, the guy that's going to come up and have a go at me in the street is only going to have a go at me if he's the right weight as me, right?
But they're not thinking those lines. Why would they be thinking along those lines?
Oh, just for sport and gold medals and competing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. It just kind of hurts my brain a little bit that these women are going to miss out. Yep. You know, allow them the choice. You can have, 10 females and 30 men in a class. And if females just want to roll with females, then they just go up and ask the females, right? Yeah. Like, that's okay. Yeah. But out of those 10 females, I reckon at least 4, if not 5, if not more, are going to want to have a go at rolling with some men. And aren't they then limiting the men's ability to learn as well on what it's like to respectfully roll with a female? And,
I think so. I think women make amazing training partners because we're so technical, because we have to be. And so when the guys put their ego and their strength aside and they decide to engage in a role with a female, they too can just be purely technical, and that helps their jiu-jitsu get better.
And they have to try not to use all their strength, which is a thing in itself, right? Yes, absolutely. You have to actually leave the strength a little bit behind and put the jiu-jitsu skills in front of that too, and that's a learning curve within itself.
100%.
And I'm not saying you can't do that man on man. I'm definitely not saying that. But I think there is probably so much more that we haven't even gone into that men and women can learn from rolling with each other. I just don't understand why you would segregate it. Yeah. And in today's day and age, why the fuck would you do that? Makes no sense to me. Anyway, that's my rant. Okay.
We could probably do a whole episode on like weird things in academies. Because while you were talking there, something else came to my mind and it's just slipped my mind. But I was like, oh, that's a good one too. Not asking higher belts to roll. Not, there is a lot of
Is
academies.
that like a rule?
Yeah.
Serious? Look at producer Matt over there.
There is a lot of academies out there who will say you're not allowed to ask a higher belt to roll. It's disrespectful. So only the higher belts can approach the lower belts and ask them to roll.
That's a pompous ass attitude. I'm sorry. You know what? I would love it if people came. I don't care who they are. I'd love people to come up to me and say, hey, do you want to roll?
Yep.
Whatever color they are.
Yep.
Like, I just think the opportunity to learn top and down, somebody with a blue belt or a white belt doesn't necessarily mean they're not going to teach me anything.
Oh, I learn stuff from lower belts all the time because they'll move in weirder ways and I'll go, oh, that's something I haven't encountered before. Let me try and deal with that. So, and sometimes, and I've heard another black belt say this as well, recently at one of our female-only open mats, please come and ask me to roll. I don't know what the rule is here, but I'm quite shy. And so, like she was saying, I'm quite shy, so please come and ask me to roll because otherwise I'll just sit there going, I don't know, do you want to roll with me or are you just avoiding me?
Imagine that in a rule where you can't ask her then from a gym where you can't ask her. She'd just be sitting on the mat the whole time going do.
Yeah, because she's shy and doesn't want to, I guess in that way it forces her out to have to ask. But, there's stuff like that as well. And I'm sure there's a whole bunch of other things that we could come up with.
Well, I reckon that's a really good thing then for anybody out there listening. Like if you know some weird shit that goes on in gyms, you can let us know anonymously or, we won't out you either. So just give us some things because honestly, that blew my mind and I wanted to rant about it. So any gyms that are out there doing that, maybe just ask your members if it's actually working for them because we all know that when you join a gym, even if there's weird stuff going on, if you don't know any different or that's just all you've known, a lot of people won't jump ship. So, people out there that are owning these gyms, just check in with your members every so often and go, hey, how could we improve this school for you? Yeah. And see what the feedback is that you're getting. I don't know.
Well, the thing is they won't know what they don't know. And the only other thing that popped into my mind was where coaches do all the partnering up. I don't get that either because then you don't always get a choice about who you train with.
Yeah. And I used to have to actually talk to the person that was doing the partnering up and saying, listen, I have these injuries and I don't want to roll with someone who is not in control or capable of understanding what they're doing because as a white belt and a blue belt, I wasn't either.
Yeah.
And so I always had to, I'm not shy. I think we've well established. And so I would go up and go, no.
Pick someone else.
That's it. Yeah. On your bike. Next.
Well, it's really good that you can speak up for yourself because a lot of people wouldn't feel that they could.
That's exactly right. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so not the topic of today.
No.
And the topic of today comes from a listener.
It does. Again. Yeah. So this is 2 weeks running that we've got listener questions, which I absolutely love. I'm actually going to read this one out to you because there's sort of a lot to it, but it makes sense in the fullness of the question. So the question comes from Steph. Thank you, Steph. And I'm going to just sort of cut down to the question where she starts that. Mm-hmm. She says, I'm one of like 3 girls that roll at my gym and I am exactly how you would imagine that lady. I'm basically one of the dudes, whether I like it or not, which is cool. Anyway, I know you already did a podcast episode on ladies and stuff in Jiu Jitsu. Excuse me everyone at home. Who in jiu-jitsu, but a lot of the ones who come in are, as you like to say, a little left of center, and the coach likes to get me to help them. I'm not qualified for that. As mentioned earlier, I'm one of the boys and in turn kind of loud and a little bit blunt. Anyway, I just want to encourage the ladies to stick with it because as scary as it is, I believe it's really good for mental health. And I don't know how to get this across to those ladies while they're watching the guys grind my head into the mat. Which is cool. They're actually lovely people and they would never do that to you unless or if you're ever ready for that. We also have ladies that come in with anxiety, PTSD and body issues and they don't normally stick around. And then she sort of goes on to say like, can you give us some ideas on how we might keep these ladies on the mat?
So I guess the first thing is, again, and we were talking about this a bit through my rant too, like, is there a ladies class? Is there just a ladies class? Because I know watching and being a part of the ladies class that it really breaks down into a couple of areas. allowing a ladies class allows people maybe with body issues or with trauma or with, triggers from sexual assault or whatever the case may be to come into a safe space where it's just ladies and ladies and ladies.
And it doesn't even have to be those things. It could even, there's a lot of timid people out there, low confidence.
Anxiety, whatever.
All that sort of stuff.
And so, and neurodivergent, right? Left of center.
Yeah.
My fault. And so in regards to allowing that safe space for people to come in, there are some women that's all they're ever going to do. They're just going to stick to that women's class and they're going to progress through in that environment. And that's cool. Mm-hmm. The fact that they're turning up is all that matters. Some of those women that had any one of those or a combination of those things going on are going to start in the women's class and they're going to build their confidence and they're going to start wanting a little bit more. Yes. Now, whether that's because their husbands are also training and they feel confident to come in with their husband as a training partner or their partner, whoever, whatever, or they're just ready to dive into the bigger pool.
Usually they'll buddy up with another lady, I've noticed.
Yeah,
they'll
absolutely.
Usually buddy up with another lady from the women's class and go, are we going to go to that class together? And so they know that they have each other.
Yep. Or they might know other ladies that are there already and so they can go and find them. Or they might just be ready to come in and just hang with the dudes too, right?
Yep.
So there is that stepping stone, which is, I think, super important. And then there's going to be other chicks that are just reared up and ready to go and they're just going to dive into the deep end with the dudes and that's cool too.
Yep.
So having that stepping stone, having that safety class, I think is huge. So first and foremost, I guess, Steph, does your school have that?
Yep.
Secondly, talking about left of center. So
hang on, can we come back to that for a little bit? The ladies class is a huge thing. I totally agree with that. I came up through under a school who had a female, mentor on the mats, and she wasn't anti. Like I don't want to paint any bad picture because she was beautiful human. She is a beautiful human. I love her very much, but having a women's class as a formalized thing was not important to her. Mm-hmm. Her opinion was women need to come in and just be like everyone else and train on the mats with everyone else.
Yep.
The flip side to that is we only ever had 3 to 5 women ever on the mats. We didn't have a lot of ladies training at that academy. It wasn't until I opened Iconic, and I always wanted that to be a priority, that we put on women's class. We put on special women's day. Like we took those extra steps to make those extra efforts so that women felt safe on the mats to start with. Mm-hmm. And then they transitioned through.
Do you think time has something to do with it as well? Because I know in my teens and early 20s when I was in a different martial arts space, there was no differentiation back then between male and female. If you wanted to train, you just trained. And I would go in competitions against both males and females. There was no... Again, it wasn't identified as a need thing for females to have that space. Yeah. I know that as the years have gone through and we've progressed further and we've evolved more, we're starting to talk in the landscape more about empowering women and more about bringing women up.
Yeah.
I wonder how much back in those days it just wasn't really a thing anywhere, maybe.
It really wasn't.
Yeah.
All of these, big women's open mats and these women sort of, things that are popping up that are just for women only. That's all kind of started since I started training.
Yeah.
So before that, it wasn't really a thing. Even though Jiu Jitsu and the very essence of Jiu Jitsu is that it's for the woman for self-defense and for the child for self-defense and things like that, it's always been a male-dominated activity.
Yep.
And you might get 1 or 2, and it's really common still that you have so many academies out there with only 2 ladies on the mats.
Yep.
And they struggle to keep anyone new in. So that's what today's going to be about, how to get women. Well, we've done sort of an episode on how to get women through the door and sort of keep them there. But this is more at the practitioner level that I wanted to sort of discuss today. If you're one of the students, if you're not a coach, but you're one of the students, what can you do to help keep these women on the mats? Because I can promise you a little bit of giving up of your time now will will reap huge rewards down the track. And we're going to talk about specifics.
Because there's benefits for both the male and the female for the female to stay on the mats,
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep. And for culture and for the coaches.
Yeah.
So all of that, but definitely for the female training partners and male training partners out there. So, yeah.
Yeah, I very much had to learn how to be not such a bull at a gate. And the women's class really helped me a lot with that, because when I started in the women's class, rolling with the white belts and the new ladies, I had no idea the level of fear and reservation and nerves that people would come to with that, you know, for the first time in the mat or for the first couple of months in the mat. And then again, for me, my experience had always just been with the rats and the boys and, you know, and because I am outward facing when I'm out in the world and I'm just like, it was never going to be a problem for me to roll with guys. Like that's my comfort zone.
So you were that one that walked into the academy and you were like, it's a mixed class. These are my people.
Yep.
It was never like a women's program or anything like that brought you in.
No, never was. I mean, what brought me in was obviously Matt, right? Because it was such a huge part of his rehab process, and then my kids as well. But for me, it wasn't daunting for me that there was men on the mats. Like I didn't give a rat's ass, and I probably assimilate better with men than I do with females. And that has a lot to do with neurodiversity too, because I am black and white and I do just see things very analytically and all the rest of it. I don't normally bring a whole lot of emotion. I have had to learn how to be emotion in other people's spaces. And so because I don't read people very well, females confuse the shit out of me anyway.
Well, you don't cope well with the nuances and the hints and the beating around the bush.
No, if you're not hitting me on the head, I'm not going to get it.
I'll dong you on the head.
Yeah, thanks. And so I would avoid female clusters.
Yeah.
Very much so. And in our last school, I'm sure there was a female class, but I never went.
Right.
Because my people were the rats, right? My people were the guys, and I'd go and hang out. And there was a couple of females that were really good in that space for me as well. And they give and they get, and I got along with them fine and all the rest of it. So it's not like I hadn't rolled with females. They just weren't my comfort zone.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, thank you. And it's the only reason why I started your female class is because I liked you.
Yay.
And we got along so well. And
so do you, now that you've come through that and you've kind of flipped it, but you're now passionate about the ladies class.
Because I love the ladies that are in the group.
Yeah.
There are so many ladies in that group that just make me laugh like no man's business. And I get along with them so well, and they're fun to hang out with, and we can take the piss out of each other, and it's almost like to a degree I can be me. You know, we talk a lot about me having to put the cloak on when I go out into society, right? I don't feel like I have to do that a lot in the women's class. I feel like it's such a supportive group of women that it doesn't matter what your hang-ups are.
Yep.
And that's probably a really good thing about this, because Steph's question was about hang-ups. It's about, do you have anxiety? Do you have body issues? We've seen all of that in the last year, right? We've seen neurodiverse people. We've seen people with body issues. We've seen people with anxiety. We've seen people that are, whatever the case may be, we've seen a lot of it.
Yep.
And this group becomes their safe space while they allow themselves to drop the barriers and to be accepting of themselves, and to know that they can do it, and that's huge. I'm not sure I've seen that historically. And even when we were traveling around overseas, we traveled for 6 months. That was a lot of different schools every week we were going into. And I was always rolling with females. Females would always come and get me.
Yep.
But because I am such a high energy when I'm out and about and I'm happy and do, people will radiate to that. And so I'm like, hey, let's be friends. Let's do this. They get to know 10% of me. We have a role. That's all good. High five. See you later. I'm out the door. You don't get to see the ugly side of me. Or, the complicated side of me. And so in that space, I'm comfortable. I can do that, no problems. I've taught myself how to do that. I've learned how to do that. My home gym is home, right? So there's that I've got to come back week in and week out and week in and week out. As people push through the barriers with me and get to know me, that's okay, that's cool. But not all people will do that.
Yeah.
And so as I let down the cloak, people get to know me, and because the group and the ethos and the environment that exists in Iconic, I'm still okay. I'm still safe.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? But I'm safe in the women's and I'm safe in the men. So in the mix, not the men, but in the mixed. So I think it's really important.
So for me, originally 18 years ago, when I very, very first started stepping on the mats, I went with Grant. So he was my safety net. There was 2 other females on the mats at the time. And actually I very quickly grew to prefer rolling with the guys because they would treat me more gently, whereas the 2 girls had no other
Were they white belts too?
one was probably a very fresh blue belt. The other one was a white belt.
Yep.
The white belt would come at me like a cat. Like I remember like anything. And my rolls with her were always really hard.
Yep.
And really competitive. You know, she was competing against me on those mats.
Yep.
The blue belt lady, she was much more giving and forgiving and helpful. But you know, I'd only have one roll with her and then I'd have to move on. But the guys I found, they were all really careful with me and protective of me. And of course, you know, my husband was Grant. So you know, I guess, you know, I don't know whether they felt like they were doing him a favor, but you know, I just really felt really comfortable and looked after.
Yep.
When I took 4 years off, I actually stepped back on the mats in a women's only environment.
Okay.
Just to get back into it.
Yeah.
And I only did that for like a couple of weeks, like maybe a month, before I was like, okay, I'm ready to jump back in with all the guys now, you know? So yeah, there's a huge place for not only bringing women onto the mats, but keeping them there, allowing them to dip their toes back in, week out, even if they start to explore the other classes where we can all just come together and kind of be that team.
Yeah.
And it's really much more about the camaraderie and that, as you say, that environment where we get to support each other. And that filters out then to all the other classes, because in no other class are we all on the mats together. Some nights you'll go, wow, like we've got so many women here tonight, but where that concentrated amount of women end up each week is in that women's class.
Do you know the other thing that's really awesome too, when you have a large group of women on the mats, especially if you're in a mixed class as well, women that have been around a little bit, seeing new women come in will also then protect them a little bit. If there are males that you just should not roll with, you'll find women will have it their own language. They will, you know, no, come over here and I'll introduce you to, or you roll with this guy, or da. And they will help them understand the landscape as well.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, I think that's super important too, that you start with your safe space, you build them up, and as you see them starting to transition, other women collecting them up and going, come on, I'll roll with you, let's go, let's bring you on for the first one, and hey,
and let me direct you towards
that's
this guy.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you know, that's not a bad thing to do. Even if all your guys are good, some of them are going to be great, some of them are going to be exceptional, and you start with the exceptional and then you come down to the great and then you come down to the good. And that's how you build a female's confidence. You put them in really safe hands, and then okay hands.
Yeah.
And as they transition through, they're getting stronger and better and more confident.
Yeah.
You know, one of the best things I've seen was on Saturday, right?
Yep.
So we went down to Synergy.
Yes.
And there was a crew of us, 10 from Iconic, that have gone down. Now, one of my great friends, Jess, is a white belt. She started in the women's class, right? And then she's now transitioned into the unisex class. This was her first ever go down.
Train anywhere else.
Yep. And without her husband, right, who, you know, my husband's my safety net too, so I get it. But she's gone down, and I've just watched her through the roles just get better and stronger and give back and push more. And I don't even think she realized how much she knew or how good she could be until she was being pushed by other women that she didn't know.
Yep.
And, you know, the first role was, Kaz, you said that all be really nice. I said, they are really nice. They're just really good at jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay. And then, so we're not there to play. We're there to roll. Yeah. And we're there to learn things from each other and teach things from each other. And you can't learn and teach if you're not pushing each other a little bit, right?
Exactly.
And so she switched on.
Yep.
And then I watched her and she was rolling with this lady, blue belt lady, beautiful. And they were just phenomenal together, but just didn't give up anything. Like, she was in there and she was going hard. So I think that's amazing. I don't think they realize how much they're learning or how good they actually are until you put into an uncomfortable situation where you have to really see the boundaries and the limits and how good you've become and how far you've come. It was awesome.
Yay.
So there's another thing for, having that women environment, because the right women will always empower women.
Yes.
The right women will always build women up and make it okay to then venture out.
Yeah.
That's what we do, right? We nurture.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think, in talking around in circles and everything, first off, is there a women's class? Make a safe space for the newbies.
You were moving on from that topic 10 minutes ago.
We extended we came back. Okay, so I reckon that's definitely a huge number one point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got that I've got that on my list as well as a really, really important thing. When you're one woman in amongst two or three,
yep,
that train at I've trained at an academy like that. I just said that. So what can I do? What can you do, Steph? I guess my answer to you. Yes, you may not feel qualified. I don't know what belt level you are. You might be a blue belt or something like that. The fact that your coach is putting you with these new ladies means that he's got faith that they're going to have a good experience with you. When I get new people on the mats, night one, I'm looking around the mats for people that I know that my person is going to have a really good time with.
Yep.
They're going to engage. So my existing student is going to engage with this new person verbally. They're going to crack a couple of jokes. They're not going to be weird or move weirdly. They're going to move in all the right ways. They're going to be able to protect themselves and this person as well. They've been around the, Iconic for a while. They know our culture, all this sort of stuff. It's an honor. I know sometimes you can get pigeonholed into that, especially as a woman. It's like you get picked every time there's a new woman on the mats, right? But the reality is you're probably not getting a new woman every single night of the week. You're probably getting a new woman once a month, if that, If your coach is putting you or choosing you to be that mentor, number one, that's a huge honor for you. I know it can feel like you are missing out on your training. I know sometimes it can be like, oh, me again. Like, I just wanted to train tonight. Yes, you will go through times where you will feel like you're giving your own training up. But I can tell you from experience that if you stick with being that kind of person, that mentor for the new ladies that come in, you will create a team of warriors that will be your best training partners later on.
Yeah, for sure.
So it is giving up. It's a bit of short-term pain for long-term gain.
Yep. I think too, and the way that Steph kind of in the question, you were saying, for women who are left of center, which I love because that's me, but also, how do you get smushed by the guys because that's where you are and that's where you're getting pushed, and because there's only a couple of you there, how do you get the communication back through to the females that that's not normal? You do it by being open and honest about it. And if you think that they're watching that and you think that they're having an opinion on that's probably fear or negative or whatever, bring it to the surface. Hey, this is my happy place. This is where I'm really cool. And all these guys know that because I've had that communication with them, or I've been rolling with them for ages. Like, this is not how they're going to roll with you.
Yep.
And it's all about that communication. It's that landscape that says be open and honest. There are a lot of people out there that are left of center, and to get through and to communicate to people like me, don't sugarcoat the shit out of it. Just be blunt and upfront. Like, these are dudes, they're going to push me because I'm good with it.
Yeah.
And one day when you're good with it, they're going to push you too, if that's where you go and that's what you want. But all of these dudes also know that they want more training partners on the mat, and to do that, they have to care and protect.
Yes.
So, we're never going to put you with someone who's going to smush you, because they're not a good mentor or they're not a good trainer. They might be super fucking phenomenal at jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Not everybody can teach and lead, right? And that's okay. So be honest with the women that are coming through and tell them, let them know that you're only ever going to put them with people who can teach and lead.
Yep.
And that's okay until they're feeling a little bit more confident. And then let them know, you'll have a conversation with them. Hey, are you ready to branch out a little bit yet? But also, if the women are staying on there, tell them that it's okay to say no.
Yep.
I'm not ready yet for you, but thank you anyway, maybe another time.
Yep.
You know, in this landscape, we have to be okay with, yes, I want to roll with you tonight. No, I don't want to roll with you tonight. And that's got to be okay too.
Yep. We can use our words.
That's exactly right. It doesn't all have to be physical. So I would say always have that conversation that goes, hey, what you're going to see me do with other people is A, not what I'm going to do with you, and B, not what they're going to do with you.
Yeah.
Until you're ready. And if that day doesn't come, okay, so be it. Just keep on being you, boo,
Yep.
but keep showing up.
Yeah.
You know, and that goes the same then for anybody who might trigger with anxiety, who might, you know, be referencing their weight a lot or might be talking about the not feeling comfortable in their space and all the rest of it. Let them know that all body types do jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
Let them know that they're not alone. They're not Robinson Crusoe in this process. They're not unique. This is normal. There are skinny people. There are big people. There are medium people. There are strong people. There are weak people. There are short people. There are tall people. That, you know,
And everything in between.
Exactly. And it's okay because all of the training partners will accommodate that landscape. They will be okay with it and they will find ways to work within it, around it, over it, under it, whatever the case may be.
Yep.
So don't put it in the closet. Mm-hmm. Don't avoid the, pardon the pun, but the elephant in the room, right? Talk about it. Bring it to the surface. If people are giving you indicators, oh, you know, that makes me a bit nervous. Nerves are real. Nerves are okay. I get nervous every time I go in for a roll. I don't want to tap. I have a very competitive headspace. Talk. Bring it to the surface. If they're giving you a lead in, if they're referencing anything, talk about it. Be okay with it. Be comfortable with referencing it back to them.
Yeah.
That's
and
a huge
don't sort
thing.
of say, oh, don't be silly.
Oh no, don't ever tell me not to be silly.
Don't be silly. That, you know, it's fine. You'll be fine. Like that's kind of brushing it under the carpet. Say, look, yeah, I get it. That does look scary.
Yep.
But then reassure them, but they're not going to roll with you like that.
That's right.
The other thing too is that you, as a female in your academy, if you are, you know, if you're comfortable doing this, or talk to your coaches if you're not. But it's really important that someone is saying to the guys, because if there's not a lot of females, they may not know this yet.
Yep.
But the guys need to know that when they roll with new ladies, they have to put the gear in first gear.
Yeah.
Right? They have to like take it back on a lot.
Yep.
And then slowly build as that female.
I'd even say
builds.
stall a bit.
Yeah. There's an art to it. You don't want floppy fish. You don't want to be condescending. Nobody wants condescending
but
training partners.
don't roll. Like if you're in a 5-minute roll, right, and it's a dead set new lady, check in, have a chat, like be okay with, okay, hey, are you okay here? Are you right? Like,
talk them through.
You're going to put that female in some really interesting positions, right, that she's probably never been in a pair of pajamas up close with a stranger like that before.
Yeah.
Have a little bit of a conversation through that role.
Yep.
Just check in with them. Make sure they're doing okay.
That's it. You know, one of the beautiful things I love is when we give ladies belts at the academy, you know, Grant always does this speech lately where he's just like, you know, you're amazing. And he does talks for the person getting the belt, of course, in telling them all their beautiful attributes and why they deserve this and this and that. But he'll always turn to the room and he'll say, and guys, thank you. Because of the way that you have trained with these ladies, you create an environment where they stay and where they can level up to these belts and they become weapons in their own right. So it's because of the environment that we have here and because you guys are such amazing training partners that the ladies feel safe to be in this environment in the first place.
Yep.
So someone needs to be having those conversations with the guys and say, look, we need more ladies on the mats. More ladies on the mats is better for culture, is better for your jiu-jitsu. It's more technical. It just makes the room a little less boys club.
And we're fun to hang out with.
We are. We're awesome. Thank you to our 60% listener base, which is a male.
I know, right? How hilarious is that? I think that's fine.
Excuse my coughing still.
Oh, that's okay.
Having beginner friendly classes. You know, you don't want to be inviting ladies in on the mats when it's like a comp class.
Yep.
And that's probably where I'd start seeing more smushing of faces into the mats and things like that. That comes with experience and time. And, you know, I'm picturing literal ladies in my head that are both okay with that style of training and would be horrified if someone did that to them, you know, like, so I've got all the gamut in between. It's really important that when the ladies come in onto the classes, that they are those beginner friendly classes, and the expectation of the roles is it's not going to be Hulk smash.
Because a lot of females, and I know one of the females said on the weekend, like I was making a comment about how, you know, this is good. This is you getting pushed and all the rest of it. This is what you guys need to be doing a little bit more back home too. And the comment was, but they're my friends. And that's okay. That's the whole point of doing this, because it means that you're going to go a bit harder, but you're trusting the person to meet you or to tell you if they can't, to have that landscape because you've got that relationship. Take that into every role you go into.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, again, when you touched on it just then as well, when it's a male rolling with a female, then you have to back off a little bit on your strength, unless she's, you know, really super strong and she's cool with it and all the rest of it. You've got to judge it, right?
Yeah.
Roll for roll for roll. You've got to put some thought process into who your person is that you're rolling with now.
Yes.
Have a look at them. And even change it as you go through the role. Like they might come to you looking really meek and and then come in and they're full technical, strong, whatever. Then you get to ramp up too.
Yeah.
But if they're not, then have some fun.
Yeah.
Take the strength out of it. Do just technique and learn and teach as you're going through. In doing the couple of females classes that I'd taken before I went away, I learnt more teaching than I ever thought I would. Yeah. Now, I've been teaching adults in the adult world in software landscape for 100 years, but okay, not 100, but I'm close. Definitely over the halfway mark. But I learned more about my jiu-jitsu when I was teaching it to other people as well, because it had to be spot on. I couldn't teach bullshit. I couldn't, jimmy it.
That's a really good point. So although you may feel like you're losing out a little bit if you're lumped with the new person, right? If you don't feel like, again, I've got to look after this brand new person. What it will actually do for your jiu-jitsu in understanding your jiu-jitsu will benefit you long term as well.
Yep.
So not only will you get a great training partner later on, you will also have a better understanding of your own jiu-jitsu.
That's right.
So it's not always a lose-lose situation.
No.
It's very rarely is, in fact.
Yeah, I would argue it probably never would be if you take it from a learning perspective in your head too, because you're teaching something now. You're going, oh, no, don't put your hand there because this is what will happen if you do. Or, oh, I see what you're trying to do there, but maybe try and do it this way. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, let's go.
Yeah.
And you're re-edifying all of that information in your own head too, which is, I did it today, right? How bad was I today? Like I was trying to change somebody's side control. I love side control and I forgot everything.
You didn't forget everything. You just went with their arm. Like, what am I doing with this again? I forget where this goes. I was like,
there's a snort.
Over your hip, Kaz. And you're like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. Over we go. Duh. So it absolutely, talking somebody else through will show up your blanks.
Yeah.
And it'll show up your points where you need to buff and polish and all the rest of it too. So I think it's a phenomenal opportunity.
Yeah.
For the other person.
You will have to put them in bubble wrap a little bit to start with. But honestly, I'm thinking I've got 2 ladies in mind that are with my academy still. Day 1, lady number 1 came in on a mixed class, unannounced. I didn't even get a message to say I'm coming today. She just rocked up at my desk saying, can I train tonight? Yeah, you can train tonight. Come on in. Jumped in, rolled with me, I partnered her up with another female, rolled with that female, got straight in on night 1, rolled with the guys.
Yep.
You know, so and has that very much that kind of personality in the room. She's one of the boys.
Yep.
You know, all the boys love her, the ladies love her as well. She'll get down, she'll, you know, roll with the toughest of the tough in the room, but she also now, years later, can taper it so she can roll with new ladies and things like that as well. So that's one. That's who when Steph wrote her message, that's who came to mind.
Yep.
Lady number two came in with somebody else as a safety net.
Mm-hmm.
Lady number two struggled a little bit early on. There'd be times where there'd be a little bit of like a little bit teary on the mat. You know, if they had a hard roll, I would have to talk to them and say, you're okay. Like, you can do this. Come and roll with me, you know, and sort of help them along.
Yep.
Both those ladies now, years later, absolute weapons on the mats. Both of those, you would say, if you walked into the room now, both of those are just part of the boys club.
Yep.
You know, like they just roll with all the boys. They're rough and ready. They actually, like, you know, beat most of the men on the mats. You know? You know, they don't mind getting their faces ground into the mats. They'll ground the guys' faces into the mats, all of those sorts of things. But that's what I'm saying. Like, ladies that come in that may seem a little bit more timid to start with, can become
that's exactly
best
right.
training partners.
Yep.
So put the effort and the time in to bring them up
and to keep them. That's
Yep.
exactly right. And the other thing that I would suggest too, as a you know, a potential go-to, is if you think that, you know, when a newbie comes in and they start and they're hesitant, or they've got triggers, or they've got things that they're talking about and stuff, ask them if they have a friend they can bring. Because it does two things, right? It doubles the females on the mat,
Yep.
but it also gives them a safety net of bring a friend.
Yep.
You know, and then the friend can hang out together in the first couple of months, or however long it takes until they're getting their foundation and their feet. And I've seen this a lot. I've seen two females rock up together, and I've seen them stick together like super glue, but only for a defined period of time.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, we'll go with anybody. You know, we rock in the door together. Hi, see you at the end.
Yep.
And they might roll or drill once or twice together, but they're not glued at the hip.
Yes.
Because they've found that foundation and the confidence, and they're good. So that's another thing that you can look to do as well is, hey, you know, I know that you're a bit nervous and this is going to be an amazing journey for you, but do you have a friend that you could bring with you to start? You know, who else would you think of that could benefit from this? Self-defense, sport, health, fitness, et cetera, and so forth. So maybe that's another avenue that they can think about offering too, or asking.
There's a phenomenon that Grant and I have noticed with friends that join Jiu Jitsu is that the one that leads the way in and then brings their friend, that's usually the one that ends up quitting, and then the friend stays. It's happened multiple times.
Oh, that's cool too.
Which is really interesting, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's quite, anyway, that's a segue on the side.
That's another episode.
It's not really a whole episode. It's like 2 seconds, but no, it's just a funny, I'm interested to know if anyone else has experienced that. Coaches out there, send me a message if you,
or if you're the friend that stayed. Let us know if you're the friend that stayed.
Yeah, good on you. Positive reinforcement and communication. I think we kind of covered that a little bit.
That's huge.
You know, just keep sort of letting them know you're doing really well.
Yep.
You know, because we've talked about this so many times too. When you're new and you start, everyone looks after you in your first few weeks.
Yep.
Then you start to get a clue. And so people start to lift their game a little bit on you.
Yep.
And it can actually feel like you're going backwards. You're not going forwards. Or it can feel like you're not learning anything at all and you haven't progressed from day one, right? So it's really important that communication, and this is a conversation I have with people, men, women, everything, all the time. You are getting better. Everyone's just picking their game up because you're getting better.
And we talked about last week too, right? In the imposter one, everybody's getting better.
Yes.
And that's something really important. Like they're not doing this to prove you're not good.
Yep.
They're doing this because you are getting better and they've had to up their game, or they're just getting better too. Right. And that's okay. Both are okay. And they're not probably thinking about you.
Yeah.
They're thinking about their own journey.
Yeah.
So, you know, communication is such a big thing. And if in doubt, ask the question.
Yeah.
I will always get to the end of the roll. Well, not always. I will a lot of the time get to an end of a roll and go, what did I do wrong? Especially if it's someone higher than me. It's like, all right, fill my gaps. What did I do wrong? Tell me where I got it wrong. Oh, okay, you could do this. Or I'll go, did I go 60%? Do you feel like if we had agreed that it's a 60% thing, did I go 60% or do you think that I was going too hard? Because that's a really hard thing for me in my brain to understand and to articulate the difference physically.
Yeah.
And so I want that feedback. I want to know. So if you're like-minded in that respect, if you need that to be able to build the jigsaw puzzle in your head and to see it and then ask the question. Don't be afraid to say, hey, where did I go wrong?
Yeah. That's assuming that new person is listening to our podcast, though.
well, they will be, because everybody that's listening is going to share it with newbies, right?
That's exactly what
this is. This is an episode for the newbies, so get it out there.
But as the person on the mats who's already training with the newbies, feel free to give them that feedback too. Don't just go, oh,
thanks for the roll.
Have hands, bump fists, walk away.
Yeah.
They are probably desperate for some feedback.
Yeah.
They're probably desperate to know. And I'd probably, as another practitioner on the mats, like another student, I'd probably be hesitant to be pointing out the negatives. I would be pointing out the positives very early on. Later on, let the coaches worry about the filling in the gaps and picking up on what you might have done wrong. But in the short term at the start, let the person know and be specific. Say, one of the first things people learn about is base.
Yeah.
When they first come in on night one, you could push them over with one finger most of the time. And within that first 2-3 weeks, suddenly they've learned how to spread the knees and sit on their butt a bit more and have their base and not get knocked over. And that's the first thing they'll learn. So be specific and go, oh, a couple of weeks ago, I could have just, folded you like a feather. And today, you were really tough to move.
Yep.
That's great. You've learned about your base. And then a couple of weeks later, usually the next thing that happens is their ability to start moving around another body.
Yeah.
So, it's like a giraffe on skates when they first start. And then a month or two in, they're actually moving around a body and they're able to get in side control and put a bit of pressure on. Hey, that pressure was really good.
Yeah.
Keep working on that. So be forthcoming with the praise, which is foreign for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely, especially in today's day and age.
Yeah.
Well and truly.
Yeah.
So, I agree. Do that. Do you know the other thing that I just thought about too? So Steph's saying that they're coming in and seeing her get smushed by all these guys that she loves rolling with because she's one of the guys, right? Maybe get one of those guys who she thinks is probably the leader, up in the excellent type arena, and get them to roll with one of these females. Let the female experience. It's one thing being told.
Yes.
And especially for people like me, everything's tactile, right? We see by feeling, touching, building, doing.
Yeah.
So if Steph came to me and said, it's okay, they're not going to do that with you, I'm like, are they though? Are they really not though? So if it is, hey, I'm going to roll with you, welcome, let's go. Now I'm going to hand you over to John.
Yeah.
And John's going to look after you. Okay, because and she's watched John roll with me, right? So my thing would be, he tried to kill you, he's going to kill me. But then if I get to the end of that 5 minutes and John is fun and he's articulating well and he's helping me move and he's explaining things as we're going through, but he's not stopping, he's not patronizing, then I'm going to go, oh, she's right.
Yeah.
There is a difference in John.
Yes.
Let people experience the difference. Don't just tell them that there's an experience, a difference.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So maybe there's another one, right? Let John show what you're saying is true.
Yes. Showing is very important.
Yeah. So, you do it. You pick your safe people. So maybe that's another thing, A, women's class, B, pick your safe guys that can really show females that they're welcome on the mats.
Yeah. I find the safest guys, when we were a much smaller school and we were trying to build the women's program, the safest guys on the mats were other husbands to ladies that were already training.
Yeah.
Because they knew. They get home and their wife goes, oh, such and such was really rough with me today and that really sucked and blah, blah, blah. So they're getting that feedback in a roundabout way of how to train with women.
Yep.
So they were always the ones that I would pick out and say, would you roll with the new lady?
Yep.
And I would say to this lady, this guy here is going to look after you and he's such and such's husband.
Yeah.
Because then they're like, oh, so I'm super safe with them.
Yeah.
So that was always a really good.
And I still think it's a really good segue, right?
It really is.
It is, because husbands, no, they want their wives looked after.
Yes.
So just by natural process in their mindset, they're going to want to look after the other females as well. So,
and husbands usually want their wives to have good experiences and want more training partners for their wives.
Yeah. So they'll want to keep the females in the cluster as well. So I think that's another really good process.
Encouraging growth mindset. And you talked about this with Jess. We talked about it, how, she had her first role and she came off to you.
Yep.
Right. And she was like, "Oh, that was a bit more intense than I expected." And you were like, "You're okay.
Yep.
You're fine and you're safe." And yes.
And you held yourself really well.
You held yourself well.
Yep.
Let's go out there and do it again.
Keep going. Back you go. Turn around. Off you go. And I was so excited for her too. Watching that mindset and watching that shift and watching that change from the next role to the next role to the next role. Like, she just owned it.
Yeah.
I was so excited I was jealous as hell, but I was so excited for her too, because I've known her since day one.
Yes.
Right. And I've seen this female come in really uncertain about herself in this sport. And she's getting to a point now where she's owning it. Vicky's another one. Like, Vicky just blows my mind. Yep. She just goes for it, roll after roll after roll after roll, and just never stops.
Oh, she was what, and she'll say it to anyone, but, and I said this to her, I'm like, on day one, I could have just, touched her shoulder and she'd be over. Like, that was my effort in sweeping her.
Yep.
And now she's just phenomenal. She just will roll with any single person in the entire room.
Yep.
She just recently got a blue belt.
Yep.
That woman rolls probably more on the mats than she's probably there more than I am some days.
I honestly, I don't disagree.
Yeah,
and she's
I've seen her. She's in morning classes. She comes to night classes.
Yep.
She stays for competition
and
class.
she doesn't sit out either. She's not like me. She's not sitting on the bleachers just going.
No, she's grabbing people and rolling with them. And, it's awesome to see how much growth has happened in her as well. And she's the tiniest human on the mat.
Yeah.
So, that growth mindset of like, you might not be able to do this yet.
Yeah.
Using the word yet is such an important word.
Yeah, it's huge.
So when women are saying to you like, "Oh, that looks scary," I don't want to roll like that, or I can't do this.
I can't do that.
So no, you can't do this yet.
That's right.
So let's work up to actually where you can.
Yeah.
And a little bit of that that gentle kick up the butt.
Yep.
That gentle donging on the head.
My girlfriends call it the Kaz's bitch slap.
Is there anything gentle about Kaz's
No.
bitch slap? Oh, no. So it's the opposite of what I'm talking about.
I've learned to do it with a smile.
So now it's a backhanded slap.
Yeah. No, it's still it's still a bit. It's just get on there and you're fine. You'll be okay. Get out there and do it.
Yeah.
I hug them at the end.
That's everything.
I'm learning empathy.
Team bonding is really cool.
I have said it since day one coming to Iconic. I have never worked well in the space of females. And I've been very publicly open about it too on all my other stuff, where I go, it amazes me how much social media and marketing bullshit's out there about women empowering women. And a lot of the time it is false advertising, because that is not the case. Women are so competitive against women in all aspects. I'm not just talking about jiu-jitsu now. I'm talking about in life.
Yeah.
And so there is this tall poppy syndrome that just seems to happen a lot in the female space, where you put your head up and you really put it out there that you're good at something, and someone's trying to stab you in the back with it.
Yeah.
So I've never been a fan of putting myself into those situations, because I can't read it, because I don't understand it, and because I am so black and white. I will punch a bitch in the face. And so it's better for me to stay away. And so it wasn't until, and again, I think, a lot of the time, because I don't necessarily always read people well, I'm putting myself into situations where there are narcissistic people or there are passive aggressive people. And, I'm like, you know what? No, bang. Yeah. And so coming into Iconic, liking you as much as I liked you, and seeing how important the women's group to you and the women's class to you was, that became important to me because it was important to you. in the early days, I was still very much, all right, well, begrudgingly, I'll do this. But what I found was the more I guess, immersed myself in it, like, and I don't know if there's just something about Iconic that's special and this doesn't exist anywhere else. I would hesitate to say that it's got to exist in other places.
Yes.
It just actually, I saw it exist in other places because Saturday was amazing.
Yes.
And the schools that have come up to Iconic in the couple of women's groups that I got to do there.
We've attached to other like-minded academies.
Yeah. So it absolutely exists because they've all been to your gym as well, and every female that's walked through that door has been phenomenal. And so it definitely exists. But there's just something about the right group of women empowering each other, encouraging each other, and you can tell it's genuine.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. That's the 2%, right? There's that sincerity to it.
And it doesn't always come naturally.
No.
It's been something I've had to fight for, and not tolerate any, if I hear something go on, if I hear two women over here talking about that woman over there, I'm very quick to be like, we don't do that here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I put a stop to it. I've had women come up to me over the years and be like, such and such a blah, 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 and I'm like, we're not going to do that.
Yep.
We're all in this as a team.
Yep.
And so it's been really like, it could be easy for me to be swept up in, I get that, rah, rah, rah.
The drama.
Yeah, the drama. But you've got to, if you're a senior female on the mats, and when I say senior female, you might be a 3-stripe white belt, but if you are the senior female, then this responsibility will fall on your shoulders.
Yep.
If you want to create awesome training partners for your future.
Yep.
This is the cross that you will bear. You are the trailblazer in your academy.
Yeah.
Until you have another female come across from somewhere who outranks you or is, higher up, or, leaders are not necessarily the highest ranked person in the academy. We've got amazing leaders in our academy who are blue belts coming up to their purple belts soon.
Yep.
And they drive culture. They are amazing men. They train with the women. They're just across the board. They carry through the ethos of what Gran and I try and do. They're up there as the biggest leaders of our academy, But if this is your cross to bear and this falls on your shoulders, then you need to be able to sort of go, hey, girls, let's not do that.
Yeah.
We're a team. We've got to be a team.
Yep.
Shut
it
down.
Yep. And idiots will work themselves out of the place. They just will, whether it's males or females. I've seen it in other gyms we've been in. I've seen it, across the board. Idiots will weave themselves out because it just gets to a point where everybody else is like-minded and wanting to be together, and they're not getting the feed of that drama.
Yes.
They're not getting the buy-in to the drama. And so eventually they just feel like they're out on a limb, and they either change and come back into the fold, or they fuck off, right?
Yeah.
Because there's no room for it. And I got to say, I've never, ever gone into a space where I've taken a group of women to my home.
Mm-hmm.
And we did that, right? We took off up to the house up at Foster, and we had an amazing weekend.
Yep.
I have never done that. I've taken my personal inner circle girls there.
Yes.
But I had never taken, and I was so nervous. I'm like, fuck, is everyone going to get along? And And it was a phenomenal weekend.
It was
just brilliant. And so again, hats off to you for the ethos that you're building in that school, because that's not my comfort zone. That's not a space that I wanted to be in, but I was going to be in because I really liked you.
Yep.
Now I'm happy to be there. Now I get excited when they all start firing up on the chat group and you get in and there's a group of them there, and all of a sudden, I want to talk to them. I want to be a part, and I want to be immersed in their world. That's not normal for me.
Yeah.
So I think if you're out there and you're unsure, build that community, because the neurodiverse will join in. The neurotypical will join in. The anxiety-driven people will join in. The people with discomfort in their body will join in. You will start to see all walks of life just come to the fold, because everybody is so inclusive.
Yep.
That will build strength on the mat. I'm not saying you have to go out and socialize every weekend.
No.
But it doesn't hurt to do every so often a something or other to get everybody together where you're out of your pajamas and you're putting on a bit of lippy and you're just having those conversations about other things over a beer or away or whatever. So, that's another thing that you could look to do as well. Look at seeing what else as a group you could do outside of the mats.
And here's the thing. Not everyone's going to want to be a part of it.
Yep.
And that's also more than okay.
Yep, absolutely.
We've got ladies at Iconic that, don't come to the ladies class, for example.
Yep.
Like they've sort of grown beyond it, and they get enough training in on the other nights with all their other training partners that they don't feel that they're going to benefit too much from that. And that's more than okay. There might be a couple of ladies that don't come along to the social things.
Yep.
That's more than okay. But at no point in time do we treat those ladies like they're not part of it.
Yeah, that's right.
If they came tomorrow or tonight, it's, the ladies class tonight, if they came in tonight and wanted to just do a one-off whatever, it'd be like, yeah, you're here. This is so awesome. And we welcome them into into that class, or when we're on the mats with all the other training partners and we'll say hi and have a quick chat. It's not like, oh, she doesn't come to that class, so we're just going to pretend she doesn't exist. Or there's none of that.
That's probably the biggest point that I see, is that it doesn't matter at what level you want to get involved, you're welcome to get involved.
Yes.
And there's none of this narky ass, oh, look at the way she's dressed, or, look at, she's only doing that, or she's only doing this. And that has been foreign to me for a really long time. So I think any gym that's out there with those females, understand the importance of having females in the room. And irrelevant of the level that they want to be involved in, still embrace them.
Yes.
As someone of really importance to be in that room and on that mat.
Yep.
Equally for men too, right?
Absolutely.
It can't be a him and a her.
Honestly, everything we've talked about today, you can equally apply it to men.
Yeah, 100%.
So, we've taken it more from a female perspective, which is something we don't always do, because the listener question was very female oriented.
And because we are a lesser in this space. I don't think the numbers are
as much.
I don't think females globally in Jiu Jitsu are as strong as men, number wise, right?
Yeah.
And so I would genuinely love to see females out there bringing a friend. Bring somebody else to the mats. Let's start building this world up where we are a stronger entity in the space. So, but yes, to your point, we did do this because it was a female question. Meh.
The last thing that I have on my list that might help retain new ladies is ask for their feedback.
Oh, yes.
Coaches, ask for their feedback. Other training partners, you, Steph, ask for their feedback. What would make this better? What would make this less scary for you?
Yeah.
That's probably a good wording. What would make this less scary? If you're looking a bit horrified that he just ground my face into the mat there, what would knowing that he's not going to do that to you, would that make this less scary? So ask those questions, get that feedback, because you might be surprised at what that feedback would be.
There is also, in asking that too, what brought you here? Because I think understanding what brought them to the mat in the first place will be a really good indicator to their journey.
Yeah.
And understanding what brought them, was it just you want to get fit? Cool. Okay, let's just look at this. How is this going to help you get fit? Are you looking from a self-defense perspective? Okay, cool. What can we do that really focuses on that element of interest for you?
Yes.
What is it that sparked them to walk through the door in the first place?
Yep.
Find that out, because then you get to leverage that. And that becomes a very important part of their journey too. So I would say that's another really big thing. What scares them? What may be not bringing them back next week? Diffuse that really quickly.
Yep.
But in the first instance, really try and find out what it was that brought them there as well. Because you might find too that there's somebody else on the mats, male or female, that had the same kind of reasoning to want to walk through the door. Pair them with that person. Did it work for you? Is that, is it feeding that need? Is it feeding that spark?
Yeah.
And hopefully the answer is yes. And so therefore there is that gratification of, yes, I'm going to get there. Yes, that scratch is going to be itched, or itch is going to be scratched. Other way around. Or, you know, you're going to fill that cup.
You know, one of the things that I do as a matter of habit when I've got someone new on the mats who's expressed to me, oh, you know, because it takes a lot for new people to tell you about their flaws, right? Doesn't tend to come naturally, but we'll get it more in the jiu-jitsu space, especially as a coach. I'll get someone saying, I actually suffer like really bad PTSD, or I suffer from really bad anxiety, or I've been assaulted. That's why I'm here and I want to learn self-defense. I'll actually make the point of saying, number one, you need to know you're not alone on this mat. Most of the people here have something that brought them here in the first place. Men and women. I've got men who have been assaulted on this mat. I've got men who suffered anxiety. I've got women who have been assaulted. I've got women who suffer PTSD. I've got everything in between. You're not alone. Because it's really easy, I think, when you're a new person, you walk into academy and you see this group of people who all know each other. They're laughing and having fun. They're grinding each other's face into the mat. I keep coming back to that because it's such a beautiful visual. I can just see it.
Grinding.
Yeah, I can see it. You know, and they all look super tough and they're all muscly and fit and sweating and doing this awesome jiu-jitsu that looks so impressive.
We're not all muscly and fit.
But it's easy to look at that as a new person and go, wow, I'm such an outsider.
Yes.
And nobody on this mat looks like they're like me.
And they're all normal.
Yes.
Looking at all those people, they can't have anxiety. They can't have PTSD. They can't have, you know, they can't be neurodivergent. They're all doing it. They're all doing it well and they're all having fun. So therefore they all must be normal.
Yeah.
This isn't the space for me.
Yeah.
Here's a news flash. None of us are normal.
No.
And define normal these days.
Define normal.
Yeah.
I would say there's more people that have got demons that they're dealing with, whatever that is, than not.
Yeah. Absolutely. And if you know, again, coming from that space too, find people with stories. Find, you know, and it doesn't have to be people in your gym. Learn and understand the landscape out there, especially if, like, you know, if you like Steph and you're being charged with trying to keep people in, whether it's male or female or whatever. If somebody's new coming to you and going, oh, you know, I have this or I have that or whatever, like for you, right? You could say, you know, Matt's journey. He has adjustment disorder and he has depression and he has all these things. And jiu-jitsu was his therapy room.
Yeah.
And so you can relate stories of other people and go, oh, hey, look up this guy. You know, look what happened here. There are so many different people that are now publicly speaking about their things and why jiu-jitsu is so good for them.
Yeah.
You will find an ADHD person that's publicly speaking about it and what jiu-jitsu is doing for them. You will find an autistic person and what jiu-jitsu is doing for them. You will find a person that's been attacked and talks about it and, you know, et cetera and so forth. Find those people so that you can relate human to human.
Yeah.
It might not be someone in your gym, but there's going to be publicly out there people that you can go, hey, I want you to look up this person.
Yeah.
I want you to understand that this is where you can get to as well. You know, that journey looks awfully daunting when you walk in and there's 40 people on the mat and they're all having a great time because all of a sudden they're 10, 20, 30 steps ahead of you and you don't realize that they've been doing it for 1, 2, 3, 11 years. They've had to build that as well, but they all started as you.
Exactly.
So find those people.
Love it.
Make it relatable.
What's your hope today, Kaz?
Oh, my hope is that they don't segregate females and males. No, I'm kidding. That was my rant at the start. Look, I'm going to do it again. My hope is that I want more people to come in and experience this. I want more people to get to where I am today faster. Because my motto has ever been regret nothing. And so there is very little in my life that I regret because I've learnt from so much. But I do regret not finding my why sooner. So my hope today out of this episode is that if you happen to be a newbie or you've just come across us because you were looking for something else and you happen to fall into our podcast, go do jiu-jitsu. And if you are a newbie questioning whether or not you really belong, the answer is yes. Don't quit. Don't stop, because that is probably one thing that you won't realize you'll regret. Keep going. And if there's not enough females in the gym that you need to feel comfortable, go and have a talk to the coach and see if you can't be a part of that change. That's my hope. My hope is that you become a part of that change. That's my hope. What's your hope?
My hope is if there's people out there in academies and you are that person that gets tapped on the shoulder time and time again to be the partner to the newbies, try to look at it as an honor. Try to look at it as, you know, this says wonderful things about you and your coach's trust in you, because your coach wants more students. That's what they're running a business.
Yep.
They're coaching jiu-jitsu. They want you to have more students that you can train with. They want their business to grow. They want their academy to flourish. They're trusting you for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, it can be frustrating sometimes because it feels like, oh, I just wanted to come in and train tonight. If you bring more women into the mats, guess what's going to happen? They're going to become the mentors for the ones after them.
Yep.
You will get your time back and you will have amazing training partners along the way. Look for the long-term benefits and the long-term goals rather than the short-term, me again. That's my hope.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very good. And as always, please, I'm going to say it every episode, if you know somebody in your circle, whether you are a male or a female or everything in between, please can you share it with people who are not yet on the mats? Because if we can do one thing, if we can bring someone into the gym, any gym around the world, and get them on the mats just because they like the way we banter and get along and the shit we say, then this is working, right? Let's build this community.
I'm going to take it one step further because I was thinking about this in the shower the other day.
I think in the shower.
Yeah, I always think in the shower. Share this with one person who does train.
Oh, yeah.
That doesn't know about us yet.
Do that too.
Yeah, because, you know, we're getting such wonderful feedback from people across the board who train jiu-jitsu, just saying, oh, I was in that headspace and listening to your episode about whatever really helped me. Thank you so much.
We got so many of them over the last couple of weeks. It's been amazing.
Yeah, it's been really good. And what we're noticing with our episode numbers is that we'll have people jump in on our latest episode and then our first and second and third and fourth episodes keep bumping up too. So thank you for everyone who's new listening to us, because you're obviously jumping in on our current episode and then going back and listening to all the others just so you can catch up and find out about Kaz's surgery.
My anxiety.
Oh, your anxiety.
Also too, and I just had a mental fluff. Savvy Touch. Don't forget that.
Yes.
So again, because we swear by these products.
Yep.
So
get on the world famous Rocket Fuel.
Yeah, you cannot go wrong on that
15% discount at checkout if you put in capital G, capital I, GI.
Yes.
And yeah, that helps us too. So it's really, really cool.
Yes. Please like and share us, get us out there, and hello to everybody listening. And thanks for all the feedback. We really do appreciate it.
And we hope you enjoyed our first video.
Oh, that's what I was going to say too. Hope. Yes. Hope. For all the new people that don't understand, we just say what's your hope now and we don't explain it.
Oh, yeah.
Hope is an acronym.
Yep.
Help one person every day.
Yes.
And that's what this is about. We want to help people.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Love it. All right. Well, until next week.
Yes.
Have a great week.
Have a great week.
Bye.
Have fun tonight at your concert.
Oh, I will. Thank you.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye. This podcast is a My Broken Soldier production
and brought to you by Iconic Jiu Jitsu.